eternal life, unlimited wealth. That's what the Philosopher's Stone was said to offer. One object, capable of turning metal into gold, and unlocking the secret to immortality. People have searched for it for over 1,000 years. Alchemists, emperors, occultists. But here's the part they never tell you. That story is a trap made for fools. A myth designed to keep hollow souls chasing hollow things. Because the real Philosopher's Stone isn't something you find. It's something you build. Not in a lab, not in a temple, but in the fire of your own suffering. In the exact moment you choose discipline over indulgence. When you face your fear, your shame, your chaos, and make something sacred out of them. That's real transmutation. That's the refining of a character into spiritual gold. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to start. A word of warning though. This is not a metaphor you can just understand and move on from. Once you see it, the mental walls you've lived behind will collapse. You'll realize the work has already begun. And if you use this power for ego, greed, or harm, the stone will turn on you. This path doesn't serve the greedy, it serves the worthy. So ask yourself, are you willing to become the Philosopher's Stone? Gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Ecclesiasticus 2:5, he had it all. A $5 million mansion, a garage full of dream cars. He owned 3 companies, and still felt like he was losing himself. His name was Marcus Persson, the guys who created Minecraft. In 2014, he sold the game to Microsoft for $2.5 billion. Then he posted this, hanging out in Ibiza with famous people, able to do whatever I want, and I've never felt more isolated. What happened to him isn't unique. In fact, it's ancient. Over 600 years ago, there lived a French scribe named Nicolas Flamel. Most people know the name from Harry Potter, but Flamel was real and respected. In legend, he achieved something impossible. He created the Philosopher's Stone. He was said to have discovered the secret formula that could turn lead into gold, and maybe even grant eternal life. But here's the part most people miss. Flamel never flaunted wealth. He never built palaces or chased titles. Instead, he donated much of his fortune, funded hospitals, and quietly disappeared from public life. Some say he became immortal. Others say he simply understood something the rest of us forgot. The stone, everyone said, could make you rich. But no one asked the more important question. What happens after? Marcus Persson had every external form of success, but couldn't escape the weight of his own mind. His tweets turned dark, desperate, trying to buy connection, to buy peace. But gold doesn't give you meaning, fire does. And that's what alchemy was always really about. Gold, without transformation, is just decoration. The Philosopher's Stone was never about what you get, it was about what you become. And to become, that's where the real work begins. Long before alchemy reached medieval Europe, it flourished under the Islamic Golden Age. Arab and Persian scholars like Jabir ibn Hayyan, known as the father of chemistry, preserved, expanded, and transmitted Hermetic teachings. They turned Greek and Egyptian mystery into practical science. They explored purification, distillation, transformation, not only of substances, but of the soul. And in Arabic, they had one word to describe the element that made all transformation possible: nar, which means fire. Now look closer. The 3 phases of the great work, negredo, albedo, rubedo, their initials form a word, N-A-R, nar, which means fire. This is not coincidence, it is design. Because the fire of transmutation isn't just symbolic, it's the essence of the process. It's the intelligence that dissolves illusion, purifies truth, and crystallizes the soul. The Arab text described the 3 phases of transmutation, a model later absorbed by European alchemists: negredo, the black phase, when the ego crumbles, when the old self begins to decay; albedo, the white phase, the purification, the washing of the soul, a return to clarity; rubedo, the red phase, integration, union, the rebirth of something unshakable. These are not abstract ideas, they are stages you will walk through. The fire is already inside you, and in this video, I help you go through these stages until you reach rubedo, your inner gold. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. Carl Jung. Most people come here hoping to learn how to make gold. What they don't realize is, that's not the goal. But if you stay until the end, I'll show you how gold is made. Not metaphorical gold, actual physical gold, but you'll need to pass through the metaphysical fire first. Most people don't realize they've entered negredo. They just think they're falling apart. But it's not the world that's collapsing. It's the false self. We grow up thinking we are our identity. We say, I'm like this because of my culture, my trauma, my childhood, my success, my failure. But identity isn't truth. It's a construction, built by conditioning, by expectations, by everything you thought you had to be to survive. But here's the truth most never hear. Negredo begins when life starts tearing that identity down. And once it begins, there is no going back. Jung described this collapse as the shadow emerging, but it's not just shadows you face. You meet the hollowness behind the mask you've worn your whole life. That's what happened to Jim Carrey, one of the most famous actors in the world. Limitless wealth, global admiration. And yet he said, I don't exist. Jim Carrey is not a real person. Behind the mask of comedy there was silence and pain. I wish everyone could get rich and famous and have everything they ever dreamed of, so they would know that's not the answer. Jung warned that if you try to cling to the illusion, the destruction only intensifies. Because Negredo is not a glitch. It's a command from the soul. And the more you pull back, the harder it pulls forward. Think of it like a collapsing building. If you resist the collapse, if you run back inside to try and save the old furniture, you'll be crushed. But if you step outside and let the old structure fall, you might finally see the sky. So what do you do if you feel your Negredo has begun? Here's what no one tells you. Stop trying to fix it. This is not a problem to solve, and it's a metamorphosis. The more you fight, the more it burns. Observe your collapse. Write what's falling apart. Name what no longer feels real. This is how the false self becomes visible. Let yourself feel it fully. Don't rush to rebuild. Don't spiritual bypass your sadness. Cry, shake, breathe. Let the psyche release its grip. Stay grounded in the body. Negredo happens in the mind, but your body can anchor you. Eat well, sleep, walk, touch the earth, speak your truth to someone safe. Name the fear aloud. Say, I don't know who I am anymore. This is the beginning, not the end. Jung said, what you resist persists. So don't resist the death of the false identity. Let it die, because beneath the mask is the one you've been waiting to meet. Negredo feels like madness, but it's not. It's soul surgery. It's the unconscious breaking open. It's the most sacred demolition of your life. And once you stop fighting it, something strange happens. The darkness softens. You begin to see things more clearly, you start asking different questions, and that's how albedo begins. If you're in the black phase right now, don't look for the exit. Look for the lesson. This is not your undoing, it's your unmasking. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. There is a moment after collapse where the silence feels almost alien. You've burned, you've cried, you've let go of the mask, and now there's nothing. No answers. No identity, no ground beneath your feet, but this is not failure, this is albedo, the white phase, the washing, the rinsing of all that's false. After his darkest years, Carl Jung stopped trying to fix himself and began something different. He called it active imagination, dialoguing with the unconscious without forcing it, following images, dreams, fragments, wherever they led. He began to paint, not as an artist, but as a witness. Symbols, circles, mandalas, myths. These weren't art. They were mirrors. Jung said, I sketched every morning in a notebook a small circular drawing which seemed to correspond to my inner situation at the time. In albedo, you don't rebuild. You listen. You don't rise up. You sift through the ashes. This is the phase of reflection, integration, gentleness. You begin asking, what is really mine? What do I believe? When I'm no longer trying to be someone. Albedo is a detox. The soul is clarifying itself. Old mental programs dissolve. You begin to recognize inherited thought patterns like a foreign language. You think, this isn't me. And you're right. This is the phase where you begin to distinguish between the voice of your ego and the voice of your essence. Albedo feels quiet, but don't confuse it with peace. It is raw exposure, like a nerve newly uncovered, like a newborn blinking into daylight. This is when many people rush back to something that feels familiar. A new job, a new relationship, a new identity. But if you do that, you'll repeat the old cycle. Another mask, another crash. So here's what to do instead. Declutter. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Clean your space. End the relationships that drain you. Make space. You can't hear the soul in the noise. Let symbols speak. If words fail, draw. If thinking spirals, dream. Follow imagery, music, colors, places that feel true, even if you don't understand why. Track the truth. Each time you say or do something that feels real, note it. You're creating a trail back to your essence. Forgive the old self. You weren't fake. You were surviving. Albedo isn't about shame, it's about cleansing. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." But to choose, you have to pause. And that's the great gift of albedo. It doesn't demand action. It invites attention. The ego is quiet, the unconscious begins to speak, and if you listen deeply, you'll begin to hear the first notes of what's next. This is the phase where many turn inward, into solitude, nature, prayer, stillness, because in albedo, you're not building yet, you're becoming ready, and when the white has done its work, when the soul is clean, stripped of lies, and ready to act, that's when the red fire returns. That's when rubedo begins. Don't rush this phase. Don't chase the fire yet. Let yourself be washed. This is not stillness, this is purification. I must create a system or be enslaved by another man. William Blake. There comes a moment in the work, after the collapse, after the silence, where something rises. You stop surviving. You stop purging. You begin to act. But it's no longer effort. It's expression. That's rubedo, the red phase. The soul returns to the body. The fire no longer burns you. It burns through you. William Blake was not a man who found himself. He forged himself. Born in 1757, he was a poet, a painter, a mystic, and mad, according to nearly everyone. He spoke with angels. He saw visions of ancient gods. He claimed his brother visited him from beyond the grave to teach him engraving techniques. And yet, his work would outlive centuries of sane men. Rubedo isn't about being understood. It's about being aligned. Blake didn't try to fit into the world. He built a new one, through pure creative fire. He wrote, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is. Infinite." This is rubedo. You're not searching anymore. You've become a conduit. You see clearly. You do clearly. Rubedo is action with no inner resistance. Jung studied Blake's work and said, "What a man he is." He lived in a world of visions and saw the world of the spirit. But Blake didn't reach this state through peace. He went through negredo, crushed by poverty, mocked by critics, misunderstood even by friends. Then albedo, years of inner work purifying his soul through symbolic art, and finally, rubedo. He published The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, where opposites stop fighting and start dancing. Blake refused to be just a man. He became a flame. So what does rubedo look like in your life? You act without needing permission. You create without seeking validation. You say the truth even if it makes people uncomfortable. You don't just understand your power, you use it. Rubedo isn't about becoming enlightened. It's about becoming dangerously honest, integrated, present, alive. It's when your soul no longer whispers, it leads. Here's what you must remember. Rubedo is not a reward. It's a responsibility. You've done the work. Now you're holding fire. And what you do with it, that's what defines the end of the great work. Now, as promised, let's talk about gold. You've come through the fire. You've watched the mask fall away. You've sat in the silence. You've faced the darkness. You've seen the red appear. This is rubedo, the final stage of the work, the reunion of opposites, the soul and the ego no longer at war. You're not chasing anymore, because you've become. And now, as promised, let's talk about gold. Most people come to alchemy hoping to find out how to make it. They hear the legends, Nicholas Flamel, Paracelsus, Isaac Newton. They want the power, the wealth, the miracle. And they think, if I could just find the secret formula. But here's what those alchemists never said publicly, and what the books hide in symbols and riddles. You can't make gold until you become gold. That was the true meaning of the great work, the purifications of the self, the alignment of will, intention, energy, and matter, the transformation of lead, both within and without. The alchemists weren't just chemists. They were priests of matter, psychonauts of the unconscious. They didn't manipulate nature. They became worthy of speaking her language. And when the work was done, when the black had burned, the white had purified, and the red had integrated, then and only then did the gold appear. But it didn't fall from the sky. It showed up in ways no one expected. Some wrote books that changed the course of civilization. Others built fortunes, not from manipulation, but from pure insight. Some found that their very presence transformed the people around them. They didn't need gold. They became so aligned, so precise, so creative, that wealth flowed to them like iron to a magnet. They had refined their inner elements so deeply that outer elements obeyed them. And yes, some of them literally turned lead into gold, but not through shortcuts, not through hacks, through purified perception, through chemistry illuminated by spirit. So here's the truth. If you've completed the work, if you passed through Negredo, Albedo, and Rubedo, if you know who you are, if you've faced your darkness and transmuted it, if your will is clear, your heart is clean, and your attention is sacred, then yes, you can create gold. Whether in your mind, your bank account, your relationships, your creative expression, or your physical reality, you are now the Philosopher's Stone. And when the stone is complete, the world responds in kind. Gold was never the goal. But once you've done the real work, you'll find that it shows up anyway, not because you need it, but because you finally don't.